Hello, good morning. I hope all is well with the listeners of the Bipolar Yogi podcast. Thank you to all who are listening regularly. I very much appreciate it. I think it's such a blessing to have been able to start this and continue it. And for you guys who are interested and continue to come back, listening each week to the stories that I have to tell. It's funny, my mum recently found an interest in the podcast and she's been listening along, and she said something that made me laugh. She said, I think that at the end of each episode I should do a small commentary and say, this is what happened inside his head, and this is what really happened. Which kind of made me think, at the moment, I have this distrust with myself about the way that I'm experiencing the universe. As they say, part of psychosis, part of this illness, is to see hallucinations. Not to be able to differentiate between what is real and what is not. So comments like that make me really question my experiences. And there's times when I think, well, maybe I am just strapped up in a mental hospital, like in a padded cell, and I'm actually just completely inside my head, in a straitjacket, just experiencing my own mind. But then I meet other people and I'm like, no, that can't be the case, because, this is a shared reality. I'm sure of that. And other people are having similar experiences. I guess we share the experiences with others. We communicate what we see, what we hear, what we feel, and what we think. And that helps us understand, helps us to know our universe, our reality. But sometimes when you're on the inside of an episode, things become questionable. You may see things that don't make sense. There is no logic behind them. You may do things that don't make sense. There is no logic behind them. But it doesn't matter, because we are here to enjoy the world, enjoy what is now. So that's what I'm trying to do at the moment, despite going through this sort of episode. I would say that when I came out of hospital a couple of weeks ago, it was still very raw. I stopped taking medication instantly. Something that I don't want to continue. I'm not going to continue being medicated. And with that comes withdrawals. It's like being transported back to a different version of myself. Maybe a younger version of myself. And so currently I am acting in a way that my younger self would. But also I'm having experiences that are just mind-blowing and unlike any version of myself. So an example of that is the other day I went to the gym with my friend, and the gym is not a place that I ever feel uncomfortable. However, I walked into the gym the other day with my friend, and I was so overwhelmed. There was just so much energy in there. The lights were bright, everything was just, it made me feel sick, it made me feel anxious. I think a little bit back to a film that kind of reminds me of my experiences at the moment, and it's called American Ultra. Now, that film is about a guy and he takes acid. I think he becomes part of an acid experiment in the United States. And he basically, it gives him an illness, but it also gives him a superpower in a way. And that's kind of how I see my own experiences. At the moment, I know that I am ill. I am ill mentally, and this mental illness, and it's not even an illness, I like the term disease, dis-ease. A disease is when you're at dis-ease, you're not at ease. It's exactly what my experience is right now. Because I'm fortunate enough to have experienced lots of ease. Ease also translated to contentment. I've experienced much contentment in this life. Contentment with so little. Contentment with being on my own, being secluded from the world and not needing a single thing. But currently, I'm finding it difficult to find that contentment within myself. So I turn to other things in the material world to try and bring me contentment. And this then cause and effect, a physical side of me to suffer. An example of this is smoking cigarettes. Spoke recently about addiction, another illness, another dis-ease. So from the mental has pushed towards the physical, and I'm just trying to settle, to recalibrate and find my place in this universe, in the present moment, which comes and goes. And it's a diagnosis of bipolar is quite useful in understanding myself in that way, because I find there are definitely the highs and there are the lows. And so, just like with yoga, it's finding the balance, finding the middle, finding that symmetry within myself. And now I want to go back to a story that really maybe even was the start of some of these dis-eases that I've experienced. When I was 18, just after my dad died, my sister from America, my dad's daughter, bought me a plane ticket to go and visit her, and I was very excited about this. I was going to go to the United States, and so I was 18 years old, and I had this plane ticket. Very exciting. First big travel, big long flight. At the time I was studying my A-levels at sixth form. That's like pre-university. I had applied for university when I was 17 or 18 in my first year of A-levels, and yeah, it would have been when I was 17. So I had a place for university at the University of Glasgow. That was where I was born, and I was going to study psychology. I was interested in the human mind, why people do things, all of the questions that ponder the human consciousness. That's it, the consciousness is what I was particularly interested in. However, due to my dad passing away, just going and dying on us out of the blue, I stopped going to school. I got very behind, and it came to exam period that year, and I was not ready for the exams. And due to my circumstances, having my dad die, the teachers were very open, and they basically allowed me to retake the whole year and give it another go. Now, of course, as it seems, nothing is straightforward in this life that I have been blessed with. So, rather than just being able to retake the same exams and have everything the same, they had completely... Now this is just like the story of my GCSEs, where I failed one of my exams and they changed the exam board. So they completely changed the whole system. They didn't just change the exam board, they changed the whole system. So rather than doing 2 years at A level and having half year 1, half year 2 contribute to your final year, just the second year was now 100% of the grade, and that was what I had to retake. So I had to, all of my first year sittings, besides maths, were basically scrapped, and I had to sit a bunch of exams, chemistry, psychology and sociology, in my final year, and that all contributed to my final grade. So it was a big change, and I had to learn lots of new material, and I had to basically work twice as hard. However, at the time, it seemed like the easy option. It was probably the more difficult option, and I did find it challenging. I was taking chemistry, and probably for the wrong reasons, but chemistry was super difficult. The jump from GCSE to A level was very difficult, and so I struggled with that and ended up dropping out. And sociology I dropped the first year, so I actually only ended up with 2 A levels in maths and psychology. I can't remember what grades I got. Not well, I'll tell you that. But for some reason during this period, my idea on what I wanted to do with my life and my career choices completely changed. So I went from wanting to study psychology, this desire to really tune into people's minds and ultimately help people, because I knew at that point I hadn't really suffered with mental illness, but I knew that it was part of my life, and especially part of my family's life. So instead, I listened to people who advised me that if I wanted to make lots of money in this world, I should stick with my maths rather than my psychology, and do something involved in numbers, in finance. So that's what I did. I completely changed my direction. I did a massive U-turn. Excuse me. Got a smoking throat at the moment, so I need to clear it often. I'll try and edit some of this out, but I've really changed my editing on this podcast to try and take things in one take, do things in one take, just cut out the blank spaces, because I want it to be raw. I want it to be raw and intimate, like it says it is, because that's what this podcast is. That's what you're here for, a raw, intimate storytelling podcast. So I did a massive U-turn, and obviously my place at University of Glasgow was based on me getting A's across the board, which I could have done had I not had loads of shit going on in my life. Always something going on at home with this boy. That's what they would say. So I decided to study finance instead. I decided to go down that route, and what had happened was, because I was doing terrible at school in comparison to how I should have done, I applied for lots of places at university, and one of these places included a foundation course, which is basically, if you do shit at A-levels, you do an extra year at university just to catch up. So I thought, that seems alright. And I only ended up coming out, like I say, with 2 A-levels, maths and psychology, and usually to get into university you need a minimum of 3 A-levels. So I got a place at the University of Chester with a foundation year to study accounting and finance. 4 years at that university, and I'd got accepted, and it was all great. But prior to this, like I say, I had this trip to America, and it was sort of springtime of 2017, I believe. And during this time, I was on my kind of, you'd call it in America, spring break. We don't really call it that, we just call it half term, Easter holidays. So I was on half term, on Easter holidays, and it was a 3-week trip I think I had. So yeah, I was so excited. I was going to the airport, I was going to the United States, and like I say, first big travel. And I'd messaged my sister and my other siblings over there and said, what would you like? Would you like me to bring anything over? I was also excited to meet up with my uncle again. And everything was just amazing. I couldn't believe it. I was going to America. I'd only seen this place on the television. It was like, I used to watch, when I was a kid, something on the TV called Only in America, and it was all of these amazing things that they were doing in America. I think I saw a flying car on there once. And I just thought, this place looks so cool. They're so ahead of the times. And so I went to the airport, flew over there, longest flight I'd ever done, stopped over in Iceland. Everything was fine. And I got to the airport, and my sister had asked for some HP sauce, right? Now, if you don't know what HP sauce is, you need to get to the UK and you need to try some. This is not an advert. However, I would recommend the fruity version. HP sauce is the Houses of Parliament sauce. I don't know where it's come from, what it's made of, but it's tasty on a bacon sarnie. Not that I really indulge in those anymore. However, my mate had one this morning, so I went downstairs this morning, and the smell of it was a strong bacon sandwich. I used to have them all the time. I remember once when I was younger, I said to my mum, Mum, can I be vegetarian? Can I be vegetarian, but I'll keep eating bacon sandwiches because I love them. She said, don't be so silly. She says that a lot. So I went and I'd asked my mum to buy it as well, and she goes to the Bookers, the cash and carry. If you don't know what that is, that's like the commercial shop for when you have a business, because she has her own business. And she got this great big, I don't know, like a litre, maybe 2 litre, massive tub of, we also call it brown sauce. It's HP sauce, but it's brown sauce. Right? And I didn't know at that age, right, I was today years old when I was 19, that that they don't have brown sauce in other countries, or if they do have brown sauce, it's not the same stuff. Right, so I went with this massive tub of brown sauce in my suitcase, and you get to America, and they asked you to fill in the customs declaration, like, have you got anything, basically, like, are you importing stuff? And I was like, well, not really, I'm just bringing my sister some fucking brown sauce. So anyway, I've got it in my suitcase. I'll go to collect my suitcase. It's obviously been checked in. And when I get there, it's already been taken off the carousel. I thought a bit suspicious. And I start walking over to my bag. And anyway, this security, this American guy starts charging at me like Terminator. Hey man, is that your bag? Is that your bag over there? I was like, yeah, that's mine. Obviously shitting myself. He's got a gun in his pocket. I've never seen one of them before. Not on a bloody police officer who's charging towards me. Starts shitting my pants. I was like, what the fuck? What country have I arrived in? So, yeah, I've got this man charging at me. And he says, you got anything in there? No, just my clothes. He says, you got any gravy granules? What are they searching gravy granules for? Is that what English people smuggle into countries? So he's asking me all these questions, and he says, right, we're gonna open it up. He's like, you got any food in there? No food. Sauce. I didn't say that. I didn't tell him that I had anything in there. I was just shitting myself. I was like, no, please, just let me go. So he's like, right, we'll put it through the scanner. So he puts it through the scanner, the bag scanner, right? And he's looking and he says, you lied to me, man. You lied to me. And I'm like, no, I haven't. He's like, comes out, right, open it up. So I open the bag up, and obviously right at the top I've got my maths homework. So I took that with me because I thought it's the half term, I've got exams coming up when I get back, I've got to get ahead of the game with my schoolwork. So I took that with me, and he starts rummaging through. What are these? This is just my maths homework, mate. Just leave me alone. Like, come on. So I'm rummaging through, and he's rummaging through, and he pulls out this great big tub of brown sauce, and he's like, "What is this? What is this?" I'm like, "It's just brown sauce, please. Come on, it's just brown sauce." So, what do you mean brown sauce? I was like, HP sauce. It's just HP. He's like, what do you mean? I'm just so confused. I'm like, come on, have you never seen a massive tub of brown sauce before? Obviously not. So anyway, he's like looking through, rummaging around, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't lie to you. It's sauce. It's not food. I guess it's edible, but. And then he's like, he's got all of my clothes all over the place. He's just, my whole bag's a mess now, all over the place in this bloody airport. And he just says, "Okay, have a nice day." And fucking walks off. Leaves me there, like white as a sheep, shit in my pants. And that was my first experience. Was an American airport. So I'm there, shitting myself in this airport, now repacking my bag. And I then have to go find my brother-in-law. Heart's racing, and he's come to pick me up. So he takes me, and we've got like a 3-hour drive to my sister's house. I finally calmed down, told him about my experience, and then we stop off at I don't know what it was, but it was American cuisine. Basically just burgers and chips and cheese curds. That's a Wisconsin dish, I believe. Cheese, it's the cheese state, I think, Wisconsin. So that's where I first visited in the United States. And it was pretty nice. I enjoyed the cuisine. I was 19 years old. I enjoyed fried American food. Didn't really think about my diet at that time, my nutritional needs of this body. And so I just remember eating what I would now call shit for a lot of the time while I was in America. And so I spent some time with my sister in Wisconsin. And then the next person I visited was another sister. She lived in the same state. And gosh, I'm trying to think now back to the time and who I did see and when I did see them. But it came a time to see my uncle. Same uncle that had come over to the UK. I now finally got a chance to see him. And now he had introduced me to John Mayer when he was in the UK. So I got a liking for John Mayer, got interested in his music, and I really enjoyed it. I might have said before, but I'm a big Ed Sheeran fan. Pardon me, sorry about that. I'm not even going to edit that out. That is just simply my nostrils being blocked right now. Might sound like I'm sniffing drugs, but I'm not. I'm just happy to be alive at the moment. Happy to be manic. Anyway, back to the story. Where was I? Right, so my uncle and John Mayer. So I met my uncle and he was living in this place, and it was just, I don't know, just a place on a lake. It was like an old abandoned place. It's quite interesting because a friend of mine keeps watching this thing on YouTube. It's an American guy, and he goes around to all of the states and just shows how abandoned places look. And it does. America just looks abandoned in a lot of places, and they don't walk anywhere. And it's just quite a different experience. So he lived in this abandoned place with this man who owned the place, owned all the land, and he had all these plans to do it all up and everything. And I don't know, it was just a bit dodgy, but I didn't really look into it. And we got very drunk. Now he had ADHD. He was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, and I didn't know that he had other drug problems. You could call them problems. And we just got very drunk, and he'd bought tickets to a John Mayer concert. So we went to this John Mayer concert, and I remember driving. We drove to Minnesota. So from Wisconsin to Minnesota. And we went to this John Mayer concert in the capital cities, the Twin Cities. And it was very funny. We got very drunk. We went out to... We got drunk in the parking lot. Met this woman, actually. She was very nice. She invited us back to her place after the concert. And then we went in to see John Mayer live. Now, he was absolutely fantastic. And I was really interested in his album. I can't remember what it's called, but his latest album at that time. And he'd done this whole performance, and right at the end, he came out with a piano, and he sang a song the song starts like this. It goes. I don't know if I can whistle it very well, but he came out and he started off whistling it. And it's called You're Gonna Live Forever in Me. And this song made my uncle cry. He started tearing up, and he said he'd never heard this song before, which I found interesting because I was familiar with it. I'd listened to it on his recent album. But my uncle hadn't, and he started tearing up, and it was just a real moment that we experienced together. And anyway, after the concert we had to drive back, and we'd been taking Adderall. It was his ADHD medication. He said, just have that with your beer, it'll, make you feel good. I don't know. And I didn't really think anything of it. I was just like, yeah, alright, fuck it, I'll have a bit of that, whatever it is. My uncle says it's alright, so it's alright. It's come out of a prescription bottle, so it must be alright. And on the drive home, we ended up not going back to this woman's house afterwards. So we drove home, and we're driving. Well, my uncle's driving, and he starts falling asleep. Basically, I don't know how long we'd been up for, and what the time was, but he starts falling asleep at the wheel, and I'm like, Jesus, I need to take over. So he falls asleep. I think we missed a turning as well. It just took us hours and hours to get home. But I ended up driving us home. That was my first experience of driving in America as well. And we finally got home. And then the following day, we were meeting up with my brother to basically so that I could go and stay at his house. I'd never met my brother before. It was the first time we were going to meet in person. Maybe I'd met him when I was a baby when I went to America, but I don't know. I don't think so. So I was excited about that. So myself, my brother, my sister, and my uncle, we all got together and we got very drunk. And then we had to drive back to my brother's house. Now, my brother was an interesting character. He is an interesting character. And one of his first questions when we were together, just the two of us, was, have you done any drugs since you've been here? And I was like, no, I haven't. Not yet, And I thought, well, I am into my drugs. I like my ecstasy, I like my weed. So I was like, no, I haven't, what are we going to do then? And he was like, yeah, well, I like meth. And I was like, right, what's that then? I didn't really know what meth was at that time. I was quite oblivious to it. It doesn't really exist in the UK. However, I think they call it speed in America. But speed in the UK is different, because I had tried speed. And that was quite an interesting experience. But maybe it is the same thing, I'm not sure. I don't think it is, because it comes in powder in the UK. And it came in crystal in the US. So he's got some meth, and I'm like, okay, right, we're gonna try this out, are we? And I was very drunk at the time, and I didn't really, I hadn't done it before. However, I was in the company of my brother, and so I assumed that it was okay. I made the assumption that I could trust this man to not give me something that was going to be super harmful for me. And so we smoked some meth together in a graveyard, I think it was, which was weird. We parked up in this graveyard and we smoked up some meth. Now, first experience ever taking meth, and I would say it was just like a little bit likened to cocaine, which is not a drug that I particularly enjoy. And so we took this meth, we smoked it up, and we then drove back to his. So we were driving while on meth. How bloody ridiculous. And we got back to his house and met his wife, and we all took meth together, one of his friends, in a garage till God knows what time. And then I went to sleep, and I woke up the next morning feeling very peculiar, very interesting, not like I had ever felt before in my life. We went to a restaurant in the morning, and it's funny because I ordered a bacon sandwich, a bacon sarnie. However, bacon in America is different. It's just, I don't know, it feels a little bit like plastic, to be honest with you, compared to the juicy, soft bacon in the UK. The bacon in the US is like plastic. You can snap it. And of course, I asked, "Have you got any brown sauce?" But they didn't. I kept asking that at places. I think I asked it in McDonald's once. "Have you got any brown sauce?" "No, we haven't got any brown sauce." They look at me funny first, because I mean, there's the racist mindset of America is like, as soon as you mention colour, they think you're talking about people. So if you say, "Have you got any brown sauce?" you're talking to a black guy in America, they get a bit funny. Anyway, where was I? Bacon sandwich, restaurant, morning, come down from meth. This was weird. And like I said, I hadn't experienced this before, so I was very in my own head, not really sure, sort of feeling around the universe as to what goes on. And my brother, when we woke up, wanted to continue to do meth. He woke up and did it. And I remember him saying to me, "I'm not addicted, I can go like a few days without it." And I was like, right, well, I didn't really think about it too much. And like I said, I didn't know anything about meth. I hadn't watched Breaking Bad at that point. I was very ignorant to what this drug was and what it was capable of. So during that day, feeling a little bit weird, and he kept offering it to me, and I kept saying no, like, I'm not really one to like wake up and do drugs, mate. That's not really how I function in this world. And I remember looking it up on the internet. I was I sat in the car and I googled like what is meth. And I remember the first thing I read was, it's one of the most addictive drugs, and it's up there with heroin. And this made my heart sink. I've never felt a feeling like that, like when I read those words. And I basically had a realization that I had done exactly what I believed I would never do in this life. And that is taking a super addictive drug, just like my father did. And so I really struggled. My heart was fluttering, I was anxious, paranoid, there was all sorts of stuff going on in my mind. I was completely falling down a hole, it felt, of disbelief in myself, struggling to know who I am. Like, who am I? If I am a guy who believes he will never take heroin, and then I take something that is likened to heroin, a similar substance. then this fear crept in. Am I now an addict? Am I going to be addicted to this drug? How am I going to get off it? What's going on? And I can safely say, to this day, I haven't had an experience like that. And that evening I then met my nephew for the first time. He was playing some sport. I went and met him, and he was a big weed smoker. He said, let's go and smoke some weed together. So we went to pick up some weed, and it was my first time, I think, smoking in America. And I smoked it and I got super paranoid, super anxious. I was already in my head. I was already in this deep hole of not really knowing what was going on. Wondering if I was experiencing delusions or hallucinations, because I started to read that those were side effects of meth. So after this experience, I went back to my nephew's house and I sat stoned, really experiencing a different side of cannabis, really experiencing something unpleasant. I just sat there inside my own head, trying to figure out the universe outside of my head, trying to understand something that was making no logical sense. So the universe inside my head was just in uproar. I had this internal conflict going on. I'd done something that I'd never wanted to do. I did something that I didn't want to do. And I didn't know why. What had possessed me to do that? And I sort of blamed alcohol a little bit. And maybe that was unfair, because it had come from myself. It come from me, because I am the only one that is in control of this body that I am blessed with and this mind that I am blessed with. So how on earth could it have been the blame of anybody or anyone else or anything else other than myself? So I put the blame fully on me, and this caused a great internal conflict, and I wasn't sure how I was perceived by the outside world. But I just allowed it. I felt uncomfortable for some time. And then what happened was really odd. Again, things not making logical sense, but I was at my brother's, I was with my nephew, and we received news that our uncle had died. He just dropped dead one day, and I was so confused. I didn't know what was going on. I was on this meth come down. I was stoned, and then my uncle dies. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this world? What sort of bloody reality is this that I'm living in? And it really, I don't know, it just, everything sort of felt like crazy how it all just kind of happens at the same time. So my uncle died, I'd taken meth for the first time, and then I went on a road trip to Colorado with my nephew. And I'll leave it there because it's getting on, and we can explore the rest of the America journey next week. But thank you again for listening. Hope you've enjoyed the stories that I tell. unable to know if they are true, if they are delusions, if they are mind-made, but all the same, they are the experiences that have led me to today, and maybe the experiences that have contributed to the dis-ease that I'm experiencing right now. But I know that with great dis-ease, a time will come where I will be at even greater ease. So I hope you join me, continue to join me on this journey as we move through it together. This is the Bipolar Yogi. Peace out.